Chapter 27. The Tides of the Mind. Elowen collapsed to the ground, her body giving out after the intense struggle. She had fought with every ounce of her strength, but it was clear the battle, both physical and mental, had taken its toll. Her limbs felt like lead, her breath shallow and uneven. Her body slipped into unconsciousness before her eyes even had the chance to fully close. The others rushed to her side. Lyra quickly knelt beside her, magic already flickering to tend to the princess's injuries. Sir Aldrich, ever the protector, moved in to check on her, his brow furrowing as he noticed the toll the struggle had taken. "She's been drained," Lyra said softly, her voice heavy with concern. "The tendrils she fought, the magic, it's like they've sucked the very life from her." Celine knelt beside her as well, eyes wide with concern. She placed her hand gently over Elowen's forehead, feeling the heat radiating from her. The princess's skin was burning, her pulse erratic. "We need to help her," Celine murmured, voice taut with frustration and fear. "But what if it's too late?" The elves surrounding them moved quickly. One, an older Fey healer, began chanting softly in a language only the ancient woods could understand. Her hands glowed with soft green light, weaving a protective magic over Elowen's frail form. They moved her to a small resting area near the grove, where the elven dwellings were made of woven trees and natural materials, their intricate designs blending seamlessly with the land. It was a peaceful, calming place, and the elven healing methods were unlike any others. They laid the princess gently on a bed of soft leaves, offering her body the rest it desperately needed. Lyra and Sir Aldrich, though exhausted, stayed vigilant at her side. Lyra continued tending to Elowen's more complex wounds, using both magic and her healing supplies. Celine, too tense and worried to stay still, paced near the edge of the clearing, glancing at Elowen every few moments. The healer's medicine worked slowly, but steadily. Elowen's fever began to subside, and her breaths became steadier, though the deep sleep she had fallen into was like a gulf of time. She had not awakened in hours. But within the princess's unconscious form, her mind was still very much awake, trapped in the labyrinth of her subconscious, battling the evil god once more. Inside Elowen's mind, the world twisted and warped, shifting between shades of black and crimson. The air was thick with an oppressive weight that crushed her every thought, making it harder to breathe. Her mind was sharp as ever, but in this warped place, time itself seemed distorted, leaving her to wander through the endless void, caught in her own reflection. And there, as always, he stood, the god. He was nothing like the gods she had known. His form was unnatural, shifting with every glance, eyes, teeth, scales, a nightmare woven from the deepest corners of the universe. Elowen. His voice slithered into her mind, cold and mocking, yet somehow it felt like the only truth in this place. Her heart raced, her chest tight with fear, but she stood her ground, refusing to kneel before him. "What do you want from me?" Elowen demanded, her voice defiant, though it trembled beneath the weight of her fear. His laughter echoed, like 1,000 shattered voices. "You don't understand, do you?" He circled her, his form shifting, stretching like shadows that writhed around her. "You are mine. You were always mine. You were never meant to be anything else." Her teeth ground together, every word stoking the fire within her. "No," she gasped, clutching her hands to her chest, desperately trying to hold on to herself as his whispers gnawed at her will. "I refuse to become what you want. I won't let you turn me into a puppet for your damnation." A wave of darkness surged, enveloping her, suffocating her thoughts. It was painful, as though her very soul was being ripped from her body. His voice, now like a serpent's hiss, pressed on her mind. "You can't escape me, Elowen. Not anymore." His words were vile, each syllable wrapping around her like chains. "You are my key. You will become the one who unlocks the way to my resurrection. Do you understand now?" A sharp pain shot through her skull, and she stumbled, nearly falling to her knees. She could feel him pushing at her, his darkness invading every corner of her thoughts. His presence was too heavy, too consuming. Elowen tried to scream, but the sound was lost in the void. The god's voice suffocated her mind, his whispers sinking into her very bones, worming into her thoughts. Each time she fought back, it only seemed to make his voice grow stronger. "You can never be free." The words repeated like a chant, a curse, burning through her insides. She shut her eyes tightly, forcing herself to remember her parents, the people who loved her, the friends who had stood by her side. I am not alone, she told herself. I don't have to fight this alone. Through the suffocating pain, she held on to that thought as if it were the last anchor to her sanity. But the god laughed again, a sound that made her want to wilt, to fade. You think they can save you? His voice was mocking, cold. They will be your downfall, all of them. They will fall before me, as you will. But Elowen refused. Even as he pushed, even as he tore at her mind, she fought. She fought for her friends, for the life she wanted to live. She fought against the chains he placed around her heart and soul. I will never be yours, Elowen whispered, her words soft but defiant amid the storm of torment. I will fight. Even if I can't defeat you now, I will never stop fighting. The god's voice roared, and the world shuddered, but still she held on. I will fight, she repeated in her mind. I will fight until I am free. Back in the waking world, Selene, Lyra, and Sir Aldrich stood together watching over Elowen's still form. The hours stretched on, with only the sound of the princess's steady breaths. They could feel her struggle, the faintest shivers racking her body despite the medicine that kept her fever in check. She's strong, Lyra murmured, her voice barely a whisper, stronger than she knows. Sir Aldrich stood beside them, silent, his gaze focused on the princess. There was a quiet understanding between them. No words were needed. They would keep her safe. They would help her break free.